it's Mal. Welcome to slash welcome back to the Doll Mom podcast. Today is a episode that I'm very excited for. It's going to be one of the most meaningful ones yet, and I really hope it inspires you. Please welcome Lee from at Doll Lover Forever.
Hi everyone.
I'm super duper excited that you are on the Doll Mom podcast today. Thank you so much for coming on. So today we're going to be getting to know Lee, how he got into dolls and the doll social media world and all that. And then we're going to be talking about the importance of inclusion and diversity, which I am super duper excited about that topic. So I feel without further ado, since I'm just beaming with excitement, let's get this episode started. Lee, how did you get into dolls?
I'm actually transgender, and before I transitioned, like a little long time ago when I first went to college, I started seeing like the Monster High ads and everything on like social media and all that, and I was like, oh, I'm not gonna get a doll. Like it's gonna be a collection. It's gonna be a lot of work. I never got it until one day. Yeah, I just never got the dolls at first, but Monster High always had intrigued me for like forever.
Monster High is awesome. I love Monster High
Yeah.
dolls. I had a couple growing up. I remember how I got my first one. It was at my birthday party. A friend, when I was little, gave me my first Monster High doll, and it was Frankie. And it was like from Frankie's like Sweet 16 line or something, like some kind of party line. And I still have her, and she's very pretty. And she would play with my Barbies too. I didn't have
Aw.
separate worlds. I would just all combine them together. Which, I mean, the Barbies might have been scared of her at first, considering she's from Monster
Yeah.
High now looking back. But, they got over it. It's fine. So, who was your first Monster High doll?
So, continuing what I was saying earlier, so like I actually Amazon used to have like other independent sellers on there. So I remember seeing a used dead tire Draculaura doll, and I was just like, oh my gosh, she's so cheap. It's like a sign from the earth. I have to buy this. So she became my first doll. I still have her. She's like, and I used to take her to school and stuff. I like when I went to college and classes, she would just hang on my bag. And people would be like, why do they have a doll? But I used to take her everywhere. And that's when I started Monster High collection. And at one point, I had about 70 Monster High dolls. I had all the dolls. I started buying them at
Wow.
like Big Lots when they were collecting them. I had everything. Like I turned my room. I bought the castle and everything. I had everything at one point, all the dolls and everything. But yeah, but I actually decluttered because after they came out with the new line, the second generation or something, I was like, oh, I can't do this. So I decluttered all my dolls and reduced them. Now I only have like maybe like 5 or 10.
Wow. That's crazy. I love to hear that. I feel like you were like a dedicated Monster High collector.
Yeah, I was, and I had two friends at my college that was also collectors. So we used to, after class, we used to drive to like the thrift store, try to see if we can find the old dolls and stuff, the cool ones. And one time we saw like the original Jackson. We were like, "Oh my God, it's Jackson!" We were so excited. Like he was only like $2, and I picked him up. It was really cool.
Wow, that's amazing. So was it just Monster High, like all the time? Like, I know you're American Girl collector, and I know you liked Barbie. Fill me in on where those kind of came in to your doll world.
What happened was after the Monster High thing, because I never really collected American Girl because I was like, "Wow, they're so expensive." Like $100, I can buy like 10 of Monster High. But then at one point, I thought to myself, like, the dolls were just they weren't really playable. Like, they were just like displayed in my room, and you couldn't pick them up, you couldn't play with them. It was just like, so I actually started collecting a little bit of like, I saw Our Generation at like Target store. I started picking up some of their stuff just for collecting. And
Mm-hmm.
then before I transitioned, my first doll that I got was actually Lainey Holland. As an adult, I saw Lainey for really cheap. She was on like $40, and she came really all bad on eBay. Like her hair was just, I fixed her up. I don't have her anymore. I did donate her, and I'll talk about that later. But I did, I picked her up, and that's when I started collecting a little bit, and I was able to get the original Julie before I still have her. And then I think I picked up another doll, which I don't have anymore. I forgot which one she is. She had like brown hair and stuff. But yeah, that's when I started collecting American Girl, but I never really got into it all that much until later in my life.
Now we're going to be kind of talking about the present. What do you collect or what doll brands are you into right now?
So American Girl is my most favorite, like the one I'm most dedicated to. Like I've been to the store. I want to like one day do my birthday there, but I don't know like how can I invite people there. So I don't know if I want to like be going by myself or if I have a group. Like I have to figure that out one day. But I do want to do my birthday there, and I've had eaten at the cafe, the LA one. I love that place. Like it's like my little inner childhood. So that's my favorite. And our generation obviously falls at second. I love their accessories and stuff, and the doll's really cute. Glitter Girls, which is their it's also made by Patek. It is like the Welly Wishers for like our generation. I haven't collected Welly Wishers, but I do want to collect them one day. I still do Barbie, not as much as I used to, but I still do Barbie. And I'm like somebody that I'm obsessed with boy dolls. Like I love all the Monster High boys. Like I just for some reason they just are so cool. And I also collect Rainbow High boys, only the boys. I just think that I have two of them. I have Shadow and I have another one. I forgot his name, but he was in blue. I just love him so much. And then I also collect Superhero High girls. DC Superhero High, I have a couple of them. And I'm thinking I do have one LLOMG doll that I got on sale, but I do want to start that collection one of these days. And I have a couple of old Bratz boys that I want to fix up. That's just in my to-do future pile one day.
Nice. You have a very like diverse collection when we talk about like different doll brands. Like the superhero girls I think you mentioned. I've never heard about them.
I'm actually a huge DC fan, so like I love anything that DC makes. And they did like this really cool doll line with all the villains and superheroes, which I have Harley Quinn, I have Poison Ivy. I think I want to get Supergirl, but they're like they're like I guess action figures for girls. And they have a whole
Oh,
story and TV show and branding. It's really neat.
that sounds
And they're
neat.
fully articulated. They're like the Monster High boy dolls. They're also made by Mattel. They're fully articulated, like their ankles, everything. It's really neat.
Nice. I'm gonna have to look into that because I'm really interested now. How did you get into AGIG or the doll social media world?
So, like, I actually studied film in school. The first time I went to school, I studied film. I studied photography. And the first time I did miniature photography was we had a project of filming something in our life. And I used to be a huge My Little Pony fan. Like I was obsessed with My Little Pony. Like I had everything. Like the Princess Celestia. And I took my little ponies out and I used to live in my childhood home and I take them out to the yard and I put them in little spaces and I took photos of them. My photography professor, she was like, "You have a knack for miniature photography, toy photography." I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And I had a DSLR camera back then. That was back in like 2014 or something, 2015. I took photographs of them and I started just doing it as a hobby. That was before cell phones were like really good. Now your phone can do pretty much the same thing. So that's when I started doing miniature photography, and then when I got to Monster High dolls, I started doing photography of them, like in the castle, and also outside in my yard. Like I would find like areas for them to be in and take photography just for a hobby's sake. Like I never really shared with anybody like what I was doing. And then when I started collecting American Girl, I got into American Girl when I first got Lainey. I did photography of her as well, but I never really shared it. I knew the AGI community existed, but I just never got into it. I used to watch these what are they called? They make stop motion American Girl like stuff. I used to watch them
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube and I was a film student, so did a little bit of that for a hobby's sake, but it just became too tedious. I'm like, I don't have the patience for stop motion. Like I learned stop motion, I don't have the patience, but that's way too much. Like one shot takes 1 hour. I'm gonna take like 1 year to make a like 10-minute video, feels like. So I never got into it. And then a while after that, the pandemic started and I wasn't working. I had graduated. Well, I graduated and I worked in film and I was pretty busy. So after I sold most of my dolls, I had sold the Monster High before already because of the rebranding that was before. So I already sold most of Monster High, but started collecting American Girl, but I started selling most of my American Girl stuff and our generation stuff. I just sold them to masses, and then I'm like, okay. Since I love DC, I didn't sell the DC line, the dolls I still have, but I was like, okay, I'm supposed to like action figures now. So I became this action figure person, and I turned my room into a bat cave. Like I got all the lights on, the bat sign. My door had like the bat cave symbol, everything. I got the Batman castle in all sizes, like the bat cave in all sizes. I had all the action figures and everything, and I was really into it. So I collected all the action figures, all the Batman, Joker, everybody. And then I remember talking to my friend and having this moment of horrible instant regret. Oh, I actually don't like action figures. I'm not that, machismo, like masculine person. I'm like, oh gosh, what do I do? That's when I met one of my friends online, and he lived pretty close. So I went to his house one day, and he's like wanting to hang out. So we actually went to the mall where the American Girl store was, because he was gonna go to the Apple store. He lives close by there, so we went there. And I walked by the American Girl store and I was like, oh, can we go inside? He's like, sure, no problem. So we walked inside and that's when the moment hit me. Like, oh my gosh, I'm not meant to collect action figures. And I picked up a mini Mary Ellen, the mini ones that they have. I didn't have a lot of money at
Yeah.
the time. So I picked up a little mini Mary Ellen and I came home and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to collect like American Girl again. And when I got her and I got home, I didn't open her. I put her in the closet and I was like, well, should I really be collecting? I'm a boy.
Oh.
Boys don't collect dolls. And it was really this inner struggle for me. But then it was that this one moment where I remember discovering Doll Studio by Chris. And I saw one of his videos where he was talking about like dolls in general and how he grew up and what his life was like and how he liked dolls since he was a kid and his parents were supportive at first. And then it really struck a chord with me like, oh my gosh, he has like 200 American Girl dolls and he's just this guy living his life. He doesn't care if people think of him. And then that's when it really dawned on me that I can be how I want to be, collect what I want to collect. And that's when I actually went back. So, like a couple months later, I hung out with the same friend again, and I actually went back to the American Girl store, and there was an employee there, which most of you, if you go to the American Girl store now, like, you know who he is. He works there, and I met him for the first time, and that was this moment I was like, I could be who I want to be. I don't have to be like this stereotypical guy lifting weights and collecting action figures if I don't want to do that. And I've been going to the store with that friend and by myself for a very long time. And it was actually interesting. I never got an HIG because I was like, man, I don't know anybody in real life. And it was the day, I don't know if you remember, Mal, but it was the day I met you at the store. I was there
Oh.
walking, I was walking all alone. Like, I get emotional about it. I was walking all alone in the store, and I didn't see, and I was there like all by myself because I had called my friend, the same friend, but he was having some kind of health complication. He was saying, I'm really sick. I can't go anywhere for this time being.
Mm-hmm.
And the LA store is going to open. I'm like, I can't miss this. I don't care what happens. I'm gonna like do whatever I can to make it to the store. And at
Mm-hmm.
the time, I already been buying some dolls online and started collecting a lot already, but I was never in the community. And when I went to the store, I was like, are people going to be judgy? Because I identify as bigender. I was wearing a dress. When I was going
Mm-hmm.
into the air, people were really like, at that point, I was already like, whatever, people are going to judge. It's just life.
Mm-hmm.
And but then I'm not very religious, but I feel like the universe made me go to the store at the time, at the way things worked out. Because I remember you waving at me, and I think you were doing a meet and greet there. I was like, well, this adult person is also there. And then I saw more people gathering, and I was like, I'm gonna go say hi to these people. Like, they have
Yeah.
dolls too. And then I walked up for the first time, and I forgot her.
I'm the
She
same way.
lives
I'm
close by to the
awful at
store.
names.
She lives close by to the store and she goes by M-Scar Girl on Instagram. I met
Oh,
her.
Monica.
Yeah,
Monica.
I met all these people and for the first time, they just treated me. They were just like, oh, and they knew notice my pronoun pair. Oh, he goes by he. Like one of them introduced me to their dad. Oh, this is Lee, he goes by he. And the dad was like, nice to meet you. And so it was just like I was another person getting dolls. And I think I don't know if I picked up a doll or anything that day. I don't remember. It's been a while, but I remember just feeling so accepted and so loved in that day. I thought to myself, like, nobody dislikes me because I'm just this person being there. And I remember sharing with a
Mm-hmm.
couple people there that I'm trans, and people were just so loving about everything about me. That the whole day was just really special to me. And it's the day I didn't have an Instagram, and I remember we did a group photo in front of the American Girl sign, in front of the bar by the where the
Mm-hmm.
door is and stuff. And then Monica was like, "You should do an Instagram, like we'll totally add you and stuff." And that's when I came home and I started doing. I took a photo. I took Isabel, the girl of the year, to the store, and I took a photo of her, and I tagged the store, and I said I was really happy to be there and stuff. And the overwhelming support that I have is just amazing. And it was the first community I've been a part of that was not judgmental, like a hobbyist community. I didn't care where I came from, who I was, what I looked like, what I wore, how I identify, my pronouns. It was just open arms, like, "Hey, you're a dog collector. Welcome. We love you just as much, just that same." And I really thank this community because without this community, I wouldn't be able to be myself and just go out in public and just be like, "Hey, this is who I am." And I don't care if people look at me and say I'm weird or whatever. I do what makes me happy, and at the end of the day, that's what matters. I have a loving community out there that cares about me. Yeah, so that's how I got into collecting and doing the all the online Instagram and everything.
Yeah, I just love your story and I love your collection. I remember meeting you that day at AGLA, the pop-up, because that's where we came to LA was for the grand opening, but they kept moving back the date and they kept canceling it. It's kind of
But
crazy
I
how that
think
whole scenario played out, but I am for sure like I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason.
I think so too because I feel like it's coming full circle now, like me being on the podcast and just talking about everything. Because if I hadn't met you at the store, I don't think I would ever do AGIG. I would never met the community. I would just be like collecting in secret because I'd be afraid of the world thinks of me. Just go,
Hmm.
okay, I'm a and just only telling to my friend who's very accepting and understanding. Other than that, collecting in secret, under the umbrella or whatever they want to call it.
So, what does inclusion and diversity in the doll community mean to you?
To me, diversity inclusion is to me it's two parts. First parts is I'll talk because I do work in early childhood education. I'm currently in school for that. The first part is kids, no matter how they are, need to be if they want to play with dolls, the adults in their life, the adults at like the American Girl store, Target, or whatever, need to be affirming to the child. If they want to pick up a doll, let them pick it up. Let them play with it. It doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl, how old you are. You should be allowed to have dolls, and the adults around that child's life should be supportive of that child to play with a doll. Doesn't matter how they identify. And the second part is for adults is like people should not care what you look like. Like you could be like, for example, like a truck driver and you want to go get a Barbie doll. Like that should not be an issue. Just because you're like a masculine truck driver who likes working out, but then you go and pick a Barbie doll, you shouldn't be like a stereotypical trope, like, "Oh, look at him, girly man, what is he doing? He's driving a truck and collecting Barbie dolls." Like that shouldn't be an issue. It should be like, okay, he drives trucks, likes working out, but he also likes Barbie dolls. Like, what's the problem with that? Society should just let people collect what they like to collect without saying you can't like it because you look like this, or you dress like this, or you do this, or whatever.
I agree. I think society is so toxic when it comes to quote unquote stereotypes and what people should do versus what they shouldn't do. You know what I mean? I still think we have a lot of work to do regarding accepting other people.
So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the Clark doll experiment,
Go
which
ahead.
was actually which was actually done in the 40s. And it first took place in the 40s and have been replicated over the years. And basically, it was an experiment where most of you might seen. It's basically they have a child about from the ages of like 3 to 7, around that age. They will have them sit in front of a doll, a black doll and a white doll, and they took kids of all ethnicities, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, whatever, in front of a doll, and 9 out of 10 kids chose the white doll, and not a lot of kids picked the black doll. And when they asked why, the kids didn't know what to say. But then, interestingly, after they asked, so, they have a black child who picked a white doll. But then they go, that black doll looks like you, right? And then the kid will be like, oh, yeah, instead of saying, you know, like the white child will be like, oh, yeah, the white doll's beautiful just like me. The black kid wouldn't say the doll's beautiful just like me. They would say, oh, yeah, we're the same because we have the same ears, the same hair. And it was just really sad to, I've done this project in my class, but in my college, but it was just sad to see that kids didn't feel that they were beautiful because they had dark skin. And it's all tied down to marketing, where they always market back in the day, they didn't have white dolls. They didn't have like black dolls. So it's tied down to marketing where they show the white doll, the superiority doll, like Barbie, pretty white, and they don't have the black doll up in the forefront as like, she's beautiful also. She also exists. And that's why I feel like kids, because of receiving all that marketing and all that influence in their life, just view the white doll as more beautiful. And that's something that's very sad and still continues to this day because we still don't have enough inclusion in the doll community and toys in general for kids.
That breaks my heart, because we want dolls. I feel like in the doll community, especially, we kind of like want dolls to look like us, and like everybody has to have like a mini me or something like that. Like that's popular in the doll community. But yeah, it's just so sad because everybody is beautiful in their own unique way. What would you like to see change or continue regarding diversity and inclusion in the doll community?
So I would like to see these companies really come out. Something that the first time that I really realized that inclusion really needed to be happen was when Joss from American Girl was released. I remember watching videos and social media posts of parents being so excited. My daughter has a doll now. My daughter also has a hearing aid. They were so excited, and the hearing aid was really a part of her life. Watching this video of a mom taking her daughter to the American Girl store, and they picked up Joss, and the little girl was like, "She's like me. She has a hearing aid just like me." And the girl shows off her hearing aid to the video the mom's recording, and she's so excited picking up Joss. She's never seen a doll like her with a hearing aid in her life. And the first time to see a doll that just like her was a magical moment for this child. And what I want doll companies to do is to come out and put surveys out to the community. What would you like to see? What do you like about these items? Right? Like, for example, they released an inclusion doll. What did you like about it? What could we change? Or what kind of inclusion would you like to see more? Right? Or just even asking demographic. How do you identify? So at least they have some kind of, pool, some data in their pool saying, okay, we have this many people who are this ethnicity, this many people, this, so that they can create dolls. So, we actually have a lot of black people who buy our brand. Let's create something for them.
I want to add something here. You talk about the different groups that buy dolls, and in my marketing class, I'm taking a marketing class during my junior year of college. It's going kind of well. We'll see how it continues. One of the things that our textbook talks about is the different groups that represent America. You see all
Mm.
of these different groups that used to be minorities back in the day are actually rising up and making the main population of America. And so that's something that marketers have to keep in mind. But anyways, it's very important to discuss that when you are in a business. And plus, I was very lucky growing up to see a doll that looked like me on the market. Other people grew up around the same time that I did, weren't so lucky.
So, as an Asian person, a Chinese person, this was very emotional for me because Corinne first came out and I got her doll and I read her book. I started crying. No doll I've
Oh,
ever seen in my whole life was a Chinese girl living an American, like a modern American, Chinese American life. And the food she eats, even the discrimination she faces in the story, where, spoiler alert if you haven't read the book, where she's they get a dog Flurry and they're waiting for their her I think her mom or dad has a restaurant. They're waiting for the restaurant and their Flurry tied to a fire hydrant while they're waiting for their parents to finish and they could go home. Someone comes by and comments and it's like, oh, they're serving dogs now to Corinne, and Corinne gets really emotional. She goes tells her mom, and her mom says, they don't know. And then I think somebody comes and like tells them not to do it or something. But it's just like the type of discrimination that Corinne faces, just even the COVID whole thing that she faces, really resonated with me because that was most of how Asian people faced the COVID pandemic was it's your fault, came from your country, and Corinne really had to deal with that going to Gwen's skating lesson, and she hears it. Someone make fun of her, oh, the COVID lady or whatever, and she was just like really heartbroken. So like her story and everything, her food, the way she looked, as a Chinese person, I can say She is the first modern, authentic Chinese doll that was made correctly and made well. My lookalike doll, the doll I chose to look like me, was Truly Me 75. He's the first authentic Asian boy doll that I have ever seen. That wasn't some kind of trope like I'm a kung fu fighter or I'm like, a chef or some kind of really generic Asian trope that you're just like, oh. And he's just a normal boy that you could make however you want, going to school, being whatever he wants to be. And when they discontinued him, it broke my heart because they did the same thing. American Girl did the same thing with the Chinese mold, which is a very sought out doll, in the communities, number four. She was the first authentic Chinese mold that was ever created by American Girl. And they never used her ever again for whatever reason. I don't know what it is, but they never reused her. We also have Z Yang. She's a doll. She's a photographer. I was really excited when she came out because she's Korean, but she is Asian. She's a photographer. I was like, oh, I was in film school at the time, and I was really excited to see her. But again, she was discontinued. And World by Us does not have an Asian doll. Ivy Ling was also discontinued. Julie's best friend, immigrant to San Francisco during the 70s. I just wish they wouldn't discontinue dolls. And it's very sad that sometimes these doll makers don't realize that these are really hurtful decisions that can hurt the community who collect the dolls.
We talked about kind of the past, kind of highlighted that a little bit, and we're still going to kind of highlight the past, but what do you think doll companies have done well?
I remember when Pleasant Rowland came out with Addie, she did an interview. She was Creative American Girl. She gave an interview. She was like, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, I would be happy that we released the first black doll that kids can see themselves in. And that was Addie. And Addie has, in my opinion, the most tragic backstory because she was a slave. Pleasant Rowland said that they took 3 years to create her, and they talked to historians from all these universities, these museums that actually have these historical records, and they designed everything meticulously to match what it was like back in the day. And her story was written by an African American woman. It was very powerful. And I think those are the type of things that I think American Girl has done very correctly. The dolls they're releasing are very historically accurate, which I think is good. And that's what I felt about American Girl. But I think the most inclusive brand right now is Barbie. Barbie has everybody. Doesn't matter how you look, your disability. I know they came out with the Ellen Keller blind doll, right? And no matter how you look, how tall or short you are, male, female, whatever you look like, however you are, there is a Barbie doll for you.
I agree with you that Barbie is the most diverse doll brand out there. I mean, they have, dolls in wheelchairs. They have dolls with prosthetic legs. They just came out with the blind doll. They had a Down syndrome doll. Like so many different people represented within so many different communities. And I think that's really powerful. And I think that's so inspiring. And I'm on the edge of my seat. Every time that they come out with stuff or like it's rumored that they're going to be releasing new stuff, I'm like, what are they going to do? Like I'm on the edge of my seat waiting to see what they do next because they're just taking so many like steps with everybody being represented. It's like, I don't even know what's next because I feel like, everybody's here. Right. You know what I mean?
What I love about the Down syndrome doll is they actually worked on the doll with the Down syndrome society.
Oh, I love that.
To make sure that she was authentically, and they actually, before the doll was released, they had a bunch of males and females, all ages, come in and look at the Down syndrome doll and have them approve it first. Like, do you feel like this doll represents you? Do they look like you? Are they good, basically, to the community? And they all unanimously agree that it was good. The Down syndrome society agreed that it was good. They put a hand on the doll. So this doll is truly authentically representing Down syndrome people in the best light possible.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing I also applaud them for, is that not only are they taking the steps to make the dolls, they're taking the steps to make the dolls right.
One thing that made me really happy was I remember going to Target and seeing I have a ton of allergies, and I have an allergy bracelet that I take with me, and I saw they have an allergy set for the dolls. I was like, oh my God, it's like a bracelet. I was really excited about that. And those little things that people don't think about, the little things that people don't think about, like people with allergies might want to have a set that kind of represents them, and our generation has kind of covered it, really.
Our generation has done a good job, too, regarding diversity. We've seen the blind Our Generation doll that they released, Marlo. We've seen, there's one other doll too that they've released too that I can't think of her name at the moment too that was very impactful as well. The doll wearing the hijab, I think it's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, hijab, yeah.
That was really inspiring and impactful. So kind of putting a endpoint or wrapping our very important and meaningful conversation up, what doll holds the most significance to you regarding diversity and inclusion?
It would have to be Truly Me 79, the Asian boy doll. Because I've never seen a doll in my life that was just like me, as the brand goes, just like me, Truly Me. That wasn't like a stereotype of a person. Because most dolls, the boy dolls are just very stereotyped. Yeah, he would be the most significant, and he's my mini me. Ever, that's what I was thinking. He's my mini me that I take around sometimes just to hang out with.
I love that. That's so sweet.
I think one thing I want to add is I do see progress and change in the society regarding kids playing different toys. Because I know Target, I think in California, I think it was California only law where they released a law saying a couple years ago saying that they could not gender toys in stores anymore. They could categorize toys like dolls in this area, trucks in this area, action figures, but they can no longer have the signs. And when I grew up, like boys, this area, girls, this area, and that I think was a big monumental step moving forward because now kids can just say, I want to go to this doll section. And nobody can say it's for girls. It's a doll section. Anybody can go there and get a doll. Right. So that I think was a very monumental step. Moving forward, I think this change is happening because I do see, especially the American Girl. So, and that's why I love him so much. And this is why they're near and dear to my heart is because of the fact that boys can go into the store and not feel shamed or feel weird or whatever. And the associates there treat you just like any other family coming. Oh, your son wants to buy a doll. Oh, what do you like? What are your hobbies? Like, oh, I like, gymnastics or whatever. And then they'll go pick some kind of gymnastic outfit for them or for the doll or what's your favorite doll, historical doll. I just treat them like any other kid, even though their branding. See, people don't really see that American Girl because they see the branding's American Girl. Anybody who's a doll collector out there, I encourage you to visit a store and check them out because the experience you have there, the warmth you feel there, I never felt in a toy store my entire life. And just the acceptance you feel there, I feel like should be, it's just awesome in general. And seeing that really made my day and gave me hope that we are moving forward in a good way, even though it's taking a long time. But one final thing I want to say, and this is to the parents and the educators out there. As a fellow educator, I work at a school where it's very inclusive. We let the kids play with dolls. The boys can like whatever they want. And, I see the difference because I used to work at other schools as well. You let kids be kids because like some of the kids will come up and they'll comment, I wear a skirt to school and they're just like, oh, like, he wears a skirt, like whatever. But because our school is so inclusive and so loving towards all the kids and they can like dolls with their boys and we don't have these gender stereotypes at my school. And it really shows when I've known these kids for 2 years and it really shows growth is different compared to some of the people that I knew in the past. I didn't have this life growing up. I didn't got to be inclusive when they were kids and got to do whatever made them happy in terms of toys and hobbies. So to end with the final thing is, you're a parent or an educator. If you have a boy in your classroom, or you have a son, and they want to get a doll, let them get it. If you're in a classroom and you see, you're an educator, or teacher in a classroom, you see a child want to play with a dollhouse, let them play with a dollhouse. Let them be who they want to be. You're nurturing them to be adults, great adults one day.
We have reached the end of this episode. This episode, I feel like, was just so inspiring, so meaningful, and I hope you, the listeners, get something out of it. I hope you are inspired to be yourself if you are not being yourself already. If you are being yourself, continue being you. Continue to do what makes you happy. Lee, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Doll Mom podcast. Like I mentioned, I really enjoyed our conversation today, and I really think it's a very important one to have.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me.
Y'all, you need to go check out Lee. He's on Instagram, and I'll even plug your YouTube, even though you mentioned you don't really do YouTube that much anymore, but I'll still plug it. It is at Doll Lover Forever. I will include the links to his direct platforms down in the description box of this podcast episode. So if you want to scroll down or whatever it's at on the podcast, on the listening app that you're listening to, you can just click it and it automatically takes you to his pages. Make sure you check out the Doll Mom Podcast social medias as well at Doll Mom Podcast on Instagram. We're on Facebook, TikTok. Getting fancy and Freds now. So make sure you go check us out. Give us some love on there. My name's Mal. I am at Dollies and Rainbows on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. We're pretty much all over the place. I want to thank you who is listening to this podcast right now. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate all of your guys' support, and it just means the world to me that you're listening and that you're interacting with the podcast. You know, you're following, you're liking, and all that jazz. Thank you so much for listening. And I think that's it. I think that's all I had to say in this podcast episode. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.